On an April morning in 2014, South Korean ferry, the MV Sewol, capsized in relatively calm seas. Mistakes by the crew, illegal modification to the ship, and unsecured cargo weighing almost 3 times the certified freight capacity all played a part in the disaster. The captain and other senior members of crew were among the first to abandon ship, leaving most of the passengers in their cabins waiting for instructions that would never come. This is the story of the Sewol Ferry disaster. On October 8, 2012, South Korean shipping company Chonghae Marine took ownership of what would become known as the MV Sewol. The ferry was purchased to operate 3 round trips per week between Incheon and Jeju Island, a route that spans almost the entire length of South Korea. The 18-year-old vessel was previously owned by Japanese company A-Line Ferry and had, up until its sale to Chonghae, operated with a spotless safety record free from incident. The MV Sewol was what is known as a roll-on, roll-off ferry. This meant cars and trucks could drive straight from the wharf and onto the vehicle deck located on the bottom portion of the ship. Vehicles entered through the stern cargo door, which, as you can see on this diagram, is situated low to the waterline. This will be a critical point later in the story. The ferry's new owners, Chonghae Marine, had an extraordinarily poor safety record, having had 5 crashes between 2003 and 2011, 2 of which were serious. They also had a long history of ignoring safety orders and recommendations from Korean maritime safety authorities. Between October 2012 and February of 2013, Chonghae Marine performed a number of illegal modifications to the Sewol, only managing to pass certification by presenting falsified documents to the inspectors. The modifications included the addition of 2 extra passenger decks and the expansion of the cargo hold. This increased the overall weight of the ship by at least 239 tons, most of which was located on the top of the ship, dramatically shifting the ship's centre of gravity and creating a left and right imbalance. Dock workers would immediately begin complaining of the ship's instability, making loading and unloading of cargo difficult as the ship often lurched. However, these complaints were mostly ignored, and in some cases, they led to the complainers themselves losing their jobs. On the 15th of April 2014, the MV Sewol was scheduled to depart the port of Incheon at 6:30 p.m. The journey from Incheon to Jeju Island was roughly 425 kilometers or 254 miles and was expected to take a little over 13 hours. The ship was under the command of Relief Captain 69-year-old Lee Jun-sok along with 32 other crew members. There were 443 passengers on board, of which 325 were students on a field trip. There were 2,142 tons of cargo, far exceeding the 987 tons it was certified to carry. At 8:46 am, the Sewol was travelling at 18 knots when third mate Park ordered a slight change in course. There are conflicting accounts as to what happened next, but, most likely due to cargo overloading, the ship turned sharper than expected, causing a steep lurch to starboard. The crew attempted to right the ship with a sharp turn to the right. This caused an abrupt list to port, causing cars and trucks in the vehicle deck to shift to one side, dooming the ship. Pumps could theoretically be used to move ballast to correct the ship. However, due to poor maintenance, the pumps were not working. By 8:49 am, The steep lift of the ship meant water began entering through the port cargo door as well as the vehicle entrance located at the stern. Authorities were not alerted until 8:53, when a passenger called the South Korean emergency number to report the boat was sinking, a full 3 minutes before the crew. As the ship began to sink, instead of ordering passengers to the top deck to prepare for rescue, crew advised passengers to don a life jacket and return to their cabins to await further instructions. The vast majority of the 325 students, trusting crew expertise, waited calmly in their cabins, many taking videos on their smartphones and texting their loved ones. The Korean Coast Guard dispatched rescue vessels around 5 minutes past 9, roughly 10 minutes after the distress call. This delay was in part caused by the ship's first mate incorrectly reporting the ship's location. The following 20 minutes until the arrival of the Coast Guard was a critical period in which crew could have coordinated passengers onto the upper decks to prepare for rescue. However, this did not happen. The Korean Coast Guard and other civilian vessels began arriving on the scene shortly after 9:20. By this time, the ship was at a 60-degree angle, with only the starboard side suitable for operations. Rescue vehicles were present and ready, however, only a handful of passengers who had ignored orders to remain in their cabins were in a position to be rescued. At 9:48 AM, the captain and almost all the senior crew are seen here abandoning ship. There are currently still more than 300 people on board, and the automated PA advising guests to remain in their cabins was still sounding, and no announcement to evacuate the vessel had been made. It must be said that, despite incredible cowardice and the incompetence on the part of much of the senior crew, there were some exceptions to this. In particular, 2 members from guest services and the chief communications officer were credited with helping passengers escape. All 3 would eventually lose their lives. Coast Guard HQ would order a patrol vessel to send personnel on board the Sewol to check for more survivors. However, after searching the bridge, they went no further. At 10:17 AM, the final text message was sent from within the ship, with the vessel now listing at a 110-degree angle. Coast Guard HQ would again order patrol vessel personnel to board the ship in search of survivors. However, this order was flat out refused. At 11 AM, with more than 300 people still on board, of which 250 were school students, the ferry completely capsized, and by 11:30 it would be fully submerged bar the bow of the ship. Throughout the remainder of the day, the Korean government received and politely refused offers of assistance from both the Japanese and US navies. The Sewol would remain bobbing with its bow visible for the next 2 days. During that time, divers were able to enter the ship, but only making it as far as the cargo decks before being forced to turn around. The Korean government would later be accused of prioritizing saving face and downplaying the severity of the incident over saving potential survivors trapped in air pockets on the ship. Experts believed it was still likely there were survivors trapped in air pockets throughout the ship. In fact, there are cases of survivors pulled alive from sunken vessels on the ocean floor up to 3 days later. At around 11 AM on the 18th, 2 days after the Sewol first capsized, the Korean Coast Guard began pumping compressed air into the ship. However, their equipment was not suitable, nor did they have the expertise to do so, and their efforts may have produced the opposite effect, as the ship finally sank to the bottom of the Maenggol Channel 3 hours later, taking 304 unaccounted for crew and passengers with her. The subsequent investigation following the sinking found that the primary cause of the disaster was two unreasonably sudden turns made at 8:48 and 8:49 am while exiting the Maenggol Channel, resulting in a cargo shift that pushed the ship beyond its ability to right itself. Overloading and improperly secured cargo were also cited as a primary cause, along with top-heavy modifications to the ship performed by the operator Chonghaejin Marine. On May the 15th, Captain Lee Jun-seok, both the first and second mate, plus the chief engineer were indicted on charges of homicide through gross negligence. The helmsman and third mate were arrested on suspicion of negligence and manslaughter, and by April the 26th, the remainder of the navigation crew had also been arrested. Chonghaejin Marine had its license revoked, and a warrant for the owner's arrest, Yubi Young-eun, was issued. He would immediately go into hiding, however, a body found 2 months later was believed to be his.